Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of JKL Media, a podcast where Lou, Karen, and I all get together and discuss something that we think is fun, or at least interesting. Today, it's my turn on the bus, and I picked Station 11, a miniseries that was available on HBO. And Lou, I understand you've read the book, correct?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
All right.
So we're at three different levels, right?
I've not read the book, but I've seen the whole series. And Karen, you are a brand new newbie, correct?
Correct. I haven't read the book. It's on my Kindle, but I haven't read it yet. And I did that purposely.
Yes. So yeah, I think this will be a very interesting, I hope an interesting discussion from three different angles. I will tell you to start out with, Station 11 to me was like one of those visual brain teasers where is it an old woman or a beautiful young woman? Mm-hmm. And once you see one thing, it's hard to see the other. Mm. This was a mosaic series that 6 or 7 episodes into, I actually went on Twitter and I said, why the hell am I watching this? I don't get this series. Mm-hmm. And someone I respected said, stick with it. And by the time I got to 8 or 9, all the pieces glued together. And I went, oh my goodness, this is great.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
far I think it's great.
Good.
And I'm only 2 episodes in.
All right. So we're going to cover the first 2 episodes in this discussion. Wheel of Fire, after renowned actor Arthur Leander tragically collapses on stage. Siobhan Chandhari and young Kristen Raymond have a chance meeting and soon face an important decision that could save their lives. So, Karen, since you have no background with either the book or the series, what were your initial thoughts on this episode?
Well, for one thing, I adore the woman playing Kirsten. I'm assuming it's Raymond.
Yeah.
I think that's how they say it.
The young Kristen?
No, the older Kristen.
Okay, yes.
Mackenzie the one Davis. With the traveling. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was in the
Halt and Catch Fire.
Yes.
Terminator.
Yeah.
She was amazing in Halt and Catch Fire.
So good.
Yeah.
By the way, I recommend that series. If anyone's a tech head, that is an amazing series. And she's great in it. So seeing her, she's in the picture for it, so I knew she was going to be in it, and that got me a little hyped up to watch it. I don't know any of the other cast except for Enrico Colantone. I can't say the name. Who's in that second episode right at the end?
Yeah,
but I don't. All the other cast members. I'm new to all the other cast members, and I think they're all really great. A wonderful ensemble cast. I had no complaint about the acting, and it has a vibe that I dig, that kind of futuristic, but it's also dystopian and dark. And I really like that kind of thing. So I'm enjoying it immensely after 2 episodes.
Good. And Lou, how about you for 2 episodes into it?
Yeah, I'm in a unique spot, as you mentioned off the top, because I have read the book. If I hadn't have read the book, I think I would be a little overwhelmed by the number of characters that have been introduced in the first 2 episodes. It's quite a lot of people to keep track of. But the overall sense I get from this series is that it's, in these 2 episodes, is all these people in one way or another are suffering from PTSD because of this global pandemic with the flu. And that obviously in this post-COVID world, or suspended for now COVID world, this type of story strikes a deeper chord today than it would have said if we'd have seen this before COVID. So it's quite interesting to see all these people trying to pick up the pieces of their lives and build up not just a life, but a new sense of social structure and community. And I really love the idea of a traveling symphony going around back in the olden days, like troubadours and balladeers and whatnot, traveling from town to town and bringing some art to communities that are obviously starved for any sort of entertainment. So I quite liked it quite a bit. And I think the cast is amazing. A lot of interesting characters here. Mackenzie Davis is great. Javine Chaudhry, who is played by Hamish Patel, I believe I recognize him from Tenet. I'm pretty sure he's in that movie.
Okay.
And he's really good, and his character has a pretty interesting arc over the series as well. And this is one of those stories where it's going to time jump between before and after the pandemic as well. So you're going to get like the mosaic that I think you mentioned, Jesse, off the top, that's going to fill in gaps down the road. And the character that showed up in the second episode, he's a favorite of mine. He obviously, I know him best from the father on Veronica Mars. So yeah, and just the mention of the museum just gives me a real chill. I'm just really looking forward to those scenes. So yeah,
I know him from Person of Interest more than anything else. He was really good in that.
Yes, I loved him in Veronica Mars as Dad, and then in Person of Interest, actually playing the villain.
Kind of.
Was really interesting.
I mean, he's a mob boss, but he definitely has a good side to him, which absolutely. I thought was great.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see him more in this.
Yes.
And I forgot to mention Lori Petty. I do know who Lori Petty is, who plays the conductor of the traveling circus.
I really loved her. I was going to mention her too. I think she's really good in this. And so before we get to the Traveling Symphony, the first episode, as I watched it a couple of times, the main story is young Kristen is left abandoned after this famous actor dies on stage. And the idea, this Arthur Linder is a huge actor. You don't get that at first, but like this is a Tom Cruise, or pick whoever you want as this doing Shakespeare on Broadway, and dies on stage. There's chaos. This little girl has no one to take her home. And at the same time, our hero, Javan, gets a call from his sister saying, it's bad. This flu they're talking about is bad. Get somewhere and be safe. So we have this whole storyline we set up very quickly that Javan is someone who likes to take care of people, that he has this good nature. He even lies to Kristen going, oh yeah, I heard from your parents why you weren't looking. You're supposed to go home with me. And so let's talk a little bit about that. And then there's other characters that we meet that when I watched the first time, I'm like, I don't know, how does Miranda fit in with all these other characters? So Lou, since you are seeing this from a different perspective, your thoughts on this first episode storyline about the flu coming on and them ending up in Javan's brother's apartment?
Yeah, this actually follows the book fairly closely. I think there was a bit more scenes with his sister where she was actually showing the chaos that was going on at the hospital and that, or describing it. And Javan's an interesting character because he's obviously, well, not obviously, but he's someone that's not living up to his potential. He's drifting through life and trying to find himself. But he's the kind of person that will just float along. But when a crisis hits, he instinctively jumps to action. And we see that in the scenes in the theater where he jumps up on stage and try to save Arthur Leander after he has his heart attack. So he's a very interesting character. And I don't know how much they're going to follow of the book for him, but if they do, I'm quite eager to see how that plays out. And as you mentioned off the top, Jesse, it's hard to talk about the show unless you've gotten to it in totality, because it's constructed in a way that you're getting all these pieces and you're trying to juggle them or slot them into spots, but it doesn't really happen until really late in the story. So things that you're seeing now won't have the significance to you once you get to the end. So I would just emphasize that Javan is a character that responds the best under pressure, as opposed to just stable situations and that. And I'm assuming that we'll see that going forward. And he's obviously learned to deal with people with handicaps, I guess you could say, because his brother is physically disabled. So he's learned how to be empathetic towards other people. And that plays well because the young Kirsten loses her parents, and she gets that terrible text on the phone that's saying that the person of this owner of this phone is passed away and don't come here. So probably one of the most cold yet heartbreaking moments in the first two episodes that you'll see. So yeah, I'm really rambling, but it's hard.
No. I actually do. I'm right there with you. That's why I set this up to beginning with that I was confused.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really happy to hear that Karen is like, no, I'm okay with it. I'm patient. I figured they're going to fill in the slots. I do think it's interesting that he rushes on stage and like, well, are you a paramedic? No. Do you know CPR? No.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had no? Just like, okay, what were you planning to do? But he couldn't just sit there doing nothing.
Right.
Karen, thoughts?
I think that was his way of getting attention for it, that no one was going to do anything about it. So he said, okay, this dude's having a heart attack. Someone needs to come up here with me. I got that vibe from it. And again, I think that sets up the fact that he has this sympathy/empathy towards things that happen. He sees it happening and he has to rush to action, even if it's reluctantly, which that happens throughout that first episode. He's the reluctant hero. He isn't sure whether to, quote unquote, as he calls it, kidnap Kirsten. I think it's called kidnapping if I don't let you have a choice.
Yeah.
And he just decides at every little roadblock that she runs into that, okay, I can't let this go by. I have to help her. And I love that. I also love that we see these little flashes of him in the past, like day 4, day 5, whatever, where we see him trying to get her somewhere. I don't know where yet. And she has to walk across Lake Michigan or Lake Erie or whichever lake it is. I'm sorry, I forgot. And I really like his character, but I think maybe I have an advantage that I didn't read the book, because even though I can tell that this is going to fit together like a puzzle later, I'm very patient about it. I don't have that in my head that, oh, well, where does this fit in? I have, hey, they're telling me a story. And I'm super patient when it comes to stuff like that. So I'm good with it. I may think it's slow when we get a few more episodes in, but I like to see where it's going. I like that there are characters in it that maybe I'm not expecting to have some sort of impact in the future. I like that. I like looking forward to it. Like Clark and Robert. What the heck was that? He's telling people about Arthur dying, and he's literally in one scene. I have no idea where he fits in. So I loved seeing that and being kind of confused by it. I don't know. I thought it was cool. I liked all the characters. I liked seeing where they are. And I really liked Javon as a character. And his sister, Sia, played by Vicky from The Good Place, which she's terrible. She's a terrible demon in The Good Place. So seeing her as a nurse in this was funny for me.
Yeah, I love The Good Place. And I just think everyone in The Good Place is amazing.
Right.
So yes, I was glad to see her. And
real Eleanor.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So I ended the first episode and I'm like, wow, they're doing a lot of time jumping. And I've left a lot of questions like, why are they leaving the apartment? It's been very long. And what do we go? And then how do they get separated? And all of a sudden we end up seeing the adult Kristen. And why is this comic book so important? Right. Like that's something really good.
And they do communicate it's important in the fact that it's the name of the series / book.
Yeah.
So I assume that has huge repercussions down the line. And the fact that Mr. Drifter dude with the crutches can quote lines from it. There's only one. Yeah,
exactly. So we moved to episode 2, and Lou talked about this. There is a traveling Shakespearean troupe that they travel the wheel, so they have the same circuit, and similar to like before there was DVRs, before there were DVD players, before there were VHS players. Once a year, you knew you were going to get Charlie Brown Christmas. You were going to get The Wizard of Oz, and so you're excited because we're going to make popcorn and we're going to build a tent. And then my older brother, which is what my Linda talks about, always say we're going to watch The Wizard of Oz together. He would make them popcorn. They would build a tent in the living room. And then when their tornado comes, he would tear up the tent.
Awesome.
For special effects. That was every year. So they are totally a ragtag group of misfits. Some of them don't have hands. The people, and they are trying to keep art alive in this post-pandemic world. That right away spoke to my heart. The idea that, and they're using all these weird real world things to build props and do things. So, Karen, let's start with you. What do you think about the traveling symphony?
Yeah, I loved it. I really like that they use those props, like just scavenging stuff in order to make their production better. She had on like a bunch of puffy coat arms on her back as like the Hamlet thing, and it was very cool. I loved that vibe. I like Alex. I think she brings that I don't know what happened in the past naivete to it, not understanding how a phone works. And I could talk to somebody anywhere in the world.
Like how many could I have this? All of them, right? Is just
how many stories fit on this?
Yes.
All of the stories.
Yes.
All of the stories fit on there. Yeah, I really like that she just doesn't have any kind of, and she's also naive to the world.
Yes.
She brings like, oh, he's a nice guy and his son and all that stuff. And he turns out maybe to not be a good guy. Yeah. Kirsten, she clues into that right away because the dude is using Mackinac instead of Mackinac and things like that.
Yeah.
But the Traveling Symphony, I feel like it's like the one thing that people need. They put all the actors up on a pedestal. And I'm assuming it may have been like that back in the time of the Globe Theater and all that there was an actor or actors that people really went to see. And it was all word of mouth that Kirsten is the quintessential Hamlet.
Yes.
And to me, it looks like they did like a rotation of plays, like 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there.
Yeah, that's what I get the feeling is that this season we're doing Hamlet. This year we're doing Merchant of Venice. This year we're doing the Scottish play.
Right.
And then they rotate it. What do you think of, Luke? Go ahead, talk a little bit, and then I'm going to ask a couple questions. What did you think of the symphony?
I thought it was a great visualization of what I had pictured in my mind from the novel. I love the repurposing of lost technology. Got like a UPS truck turned into a wagon, stuff like that. And this collection of people, a real sense of family for they've all come from their own different backgrounds and reformed into this new community. And it's like a UN congregation of the world because it's all different races and creeds and whatnot, and nobody's treated equal. There are obviously some leaders. Every society needs them, but everybody's treated equally. And you can really sense, like when that one actor was auditioning, really illustrated, and that's a good example of show don't tell, that the sense of community. Everybody was cheering this guy on. It was his 3rd time trying and that.
Right.
And so I really loved all that, and it really illustrates in several ways that how in our world we take we take things for granted and we're jaded, like the phone thing, and the fact that we really do need art beyond. You would think in that kind of a world they would all be focused on just the day-to-day activities of surviving, gathering food, shelter, and so forth. But that's just surviving. That's not living. Our art is what gives life that extra quality that we were always searching for in our relationships and whatnot. And it's what feeds the soul as opposed to the body. And this whole series on the book it's all about people acting gracefully under a really pressure-filled situation.
Yeah, it's showing that art survives.
Yeah,
because of what it needs to be.
Yeah, and one of the things that in our modern society that arts from school is the first thing that gets cut.
Yeah.
And I think I believe athletics are important. And as Linda has mentioned multiple times, she wished she had gotten involved in athletics in high school for that sense of teamwork and helping self-esteem. So, but I also think art is important, whether it's the choir, whether it's the band, whether it's art classes.
Or just the library.
Yeah, the library. And so too many times when you're having to cut, we'll like, okay, well, we'll do this. And so like one of the things we don't see, because the Walking Dead is not that kind of show, is how are these these communities living?
Yeah.
How are they trying to go back to normal? And the idea that Kristen is a celebrity, like when they're coming into town and they do the parade, the same way that Barnum and Bailey used to do a parade when the circus came into town, and they're like, she's remembering people, and they're like, oh, I've been studying the way you do that. And the guy doing the scene from Independence Day, and they're all like, come on, it's okay, it's okay. And they're all looking at the conductor like, come on, cut him some slack. And you're like, okay. And then we cut back later where has a small part and he's freaking out. Like, oh, I can't play this. And I love the idea that they're mixing genders. Like she could be playing the male lead. He could be playing the mom, the way originally all of Shakespeare was done by male actors. And she's giving him advice. She's teaching him, just as a really beautiful scene. And I think says a message that we are more than just survival. And I love how you put it, Lou. That's surviving, not living. And it's really beautifully done. Yeah,
there's the show is probably going to be full with these many small little moments. Like if you want to watch a show that's like The Walking Dead or whatever, that's full of action and whatnot, this is not the show for you. This is a much more quiet, gentle, fragile type of show. I mean, there's like little scenes like with Yavin in the grocery store talking to the clerk, and the clerk is saying, like, do you think I should stay? And he says, oh, you should go home. You should go home. Like that's just those little things. And then as you see him outside the store with the young Kirsten pushing all those grocery carts, and then you see that grocery clerk walking away. It's those little payoffs. Like that's what this story is all about. So you have to really focus in on the moments, the small moments. And it's just the way that one girl was just so overjoyed about the wonders of what a cell phone could do, which we all just take for granted nowadays. Yes. I mean, people get upset when they drop their cell phone down the toilet or whatever, but we still take it for granted that we can talk to anybody in the world. I could put a whole library on this thing, and it's just amazing. And for what they're doing in this show, it's pointing out several things at the same time: how jaded we are, and yet how important art is, and how important community and relationships with people are, and also how past events really inform the decisions that we make today. You can't escape your past, and sometimes it's for the better and sometimes it's for the worse.
The second episode is A Hawk from a Handsaw, which is from Hamlet. I do think it's interesting that they just do Shakespeare, right? The idea, and people are enjoying it. They're ready to see anything. And it's a beautiful scene where they're at night and they have the torches to light, and they're just their voice projecting, and the audience is just staring, captivated by this performance. We end with a little bit of shakiness. Kristen doesn't trust this guy that's shown up. And ends up stabbing him. And I'm like, whoa, hey, Kristen, but I think once again, it shows that they're trying to bring some normalcy, but the same thing. This is the type of world where you have to protect yourself. Any thoughts about that, our ending, and the person survived? You see his friend taking him away.
His son.
Yes, right.
And I think his name is Travis. Is that right? The guy with the limp. Anyway, whoever he is. Yeah, I got that creeptastic vibe from him. And again, I think it shows the difference between Kirsten and Alex, that Alex trusts people, and Kirsten immediately, even before she sees him, doesn't trust him. And when he opens his mouth to talk, it reinforces that. And she realizes that this guy is dangerous, but I got to play into it because otherwise bad things could happen. We're out in the woods.
Yes.
Let's wait until we get back to everyone else. I think she is world weary. I think she definitely has PTSD because everyone around her has left her. from a very young age. Everyone around her has died.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's the case with Siobhan and Frank and her brother and all that.
Right.
So yeah, I love her character. I love that whole interaction she has with him on the shore. It looks like a beachy thing on the shore of the lake. And the fact that she has told him now, look, I get who you are. You're not this guy. This isn't your son. You didn't lose your wife, whatever the whole thing is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let it stand. And I was surprised that the dude survived, to be honest, because
same here.
Yeah, because it really looked like he was dead. But that whole, dun, 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 he's not laying there anymore. And then he gets wheeled away by his quote unquote son.
Mm-hmm.
And where did that wheelchair come from? But hey, whatever.
Yeah.
That was a medical encampment though. St. Deborah.
Yeah.
They were like all midwives and doulas and stuff. So they might have a wheelchair. But
Mm-hmm.
And what were they doing back on the dock? He took the guy away to the dock and then he takes him away from the dock. So yeah, that was puzzling, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's off to a great start. I had a lot of these same questions, and luckily I was able to binge this. The guy who's doing it is Patrick Somerville, and looks like he's written for Leftovers, which is one of my favorite shows. I love that.
Yeah.
And so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts? I know there's a lot to discuss, but we only can go so far, as Lou said, right? Because we're getting little bits of stories. Anything else? I guess the museum, we get Veronica Mars's dad's saying, hey, we'd like you to perform. And they're like, Doug, we do a wheel. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, hey, dude, if you're not on this old wooden wheel, we don't do other performances. So
right.
I thought,
you can come to us.
Right. Yeah.
Was kind of her vibe from me. And I would think, honestly, that would be the kind of place they'd want to take onto their wheel.
Yeah.
But I can see where Sarah doesn't trust going away from these communities she's already visited. And, it would disrupt their schedule, I'm assuming, as well, to take another detour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to mention Charlie, who was the pregnant woman.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That Kirsten was reluctant, to say the least, to let her go, because that's another person she's losing.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And the fact that she had a relationship with her and her boyfriend at one point was cool to see. I loved all her interactions with people. You could see that she's like the actor that their whole symphony looks up to. She's very much in the lead when it comes to acting. And I'm guessing it's because she was trained as a Shakespearean child actor.
Right.
And she also has those real life experiences that you could see that when she drew back on those past memories in order to have that emotion as Hamlet in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dug that. And I really think it was touching that she was gutted that Charlie would stay in St. Deborah.
Yeah. The idea of like, why would you want anything else? This is our family. This is what we're doing. And the idea that, no, this served its purpose. And now then we want to build a place for our child. And so, yeah, I thought that was a great sign and very insightful. Karen, she just keeps losing people. The symphony is now her family, and she's going to do everything she can to hold that family, because she has lost so many people in so many ways. You could tell, you'll find later, Arthur and her were really close. So yeah, this is really good.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
We'll be back next week, or probably we're going to dump all these at times. So once you release this, you can finish this and go straight to, we will talk episode 3 and 4. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I just love, again, one of those small moments, but I just love it when Enrico Colaianti's character gives him the invitation, and he says, it's an invitation. And he's like all so proud of him. They're like, I'm so giddy about this invitation. It's just like it's just such a small moment, but it's just really warmed my heart when he did that. Yeah,
that little handwritten note on a napkin or whatever.
Yeah. And he almost seems very uncomfortable interacting with someone, and he's all very unsure.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, a little on the stiff side, but also
Yes.
super excited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good
Socially
nuance,
awkward, I guess.
Yes,
Right.
very socially awkward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, I wanted to mention Saint Deborah. In the show, Saint Deborah is someone that helped birth babies after the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
But there is an actual Saint Deborah from Catholicism, and she is the patron saint of bees.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
I have no
Nice.
idea whether that ties in or anything, but I looked it up because I wanted to know what the significance of Saint Deborah is.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
And patron saint of bees and beekeepers, so I hate her because I am allergic to bees.
All right. Very nice. All right. If someone wants to reach you, how can they, Lou?
You can find us at Lou's Reviews, where you'll find these episodes under the JKL Media playlist, as well as our Babylon 5 Stephen King and Writer podcast. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, SYTSMA, or at S King Podcast.
Very nice. And Karen?
I'm at Oliveria on the Twitter machine and other places. Please find me there. There's a link to my blog in my bio, and you can visit there.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter for now. And please follow us. If you could, go to JKL Media on iTunes, leave us a review, and rate us 5 stars. Give us some love. We will talk to you soon. Be careful, be safe, and be kind. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And see.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.